Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable. We invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news.
Saludos amigos, estamos aquí de nuevo en la mesa redonda. Esta es Usala Media. Estamos aquí en compañía de Taubenberger, quien está representándose para su candidatura para representante estatal. Nos conducen hoy Daniel Ramos y el pastor Phil Fisher, que están dirigiendo este programa. Ahora vamos a cambiar de idioma. Estamos hablando con una persona que habla alemán, pero no habla español. Greetings.
Thank you.
Welcome to our program, the Roundtable.
Thank you for the invitation.
Why don't we start from the beginning? You have been around for a while in the city in different capacities.
Yes.
I was reading that you went to college for is it agronomy?
Yes, which is soil science.
Soil science.
Yes, agriculture.
Right. So that was interesting.
Very interesting.
Because we were talking about how this country has changed.
Many ways.
I like to point out many times that in the 1900 census, the U.S. was 3% of the people lived in urban areas,
Right.
and 97% of the population lived in the countryside. And 100 years later, in the census of 2000, is the complete opposite.
Yes,
And 97% of us live in urban areas,
that is correct.
only 3% out in the countryside. So, did you have an opportunity to practice your major?
I did, but believe it or not, it was actually in the city. I was the ground supervisor at Friends Hospital, which is 100 acres in the city of Philadelphia, and best known as the largest collection of azaleas in North America. It is wonderful, and it gave a conducive environment for people to rehabilitate. It was quiet. When you're in Friends Hospital, even to this day, you would have no idea you're in the city. It's very calm. It's very quiet, which makes for that calmness, and it's just a great place to reevaluate everything and work on therapy and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, we have the Horticultural Society. They have a yearly event.
Yes.
In the past, it was by the park on Roosevelt Park.
Well, it has been, but it was also at the convention center.
And I think it's moving back.
Oh, it is. It was actually an indoor, and actually even when it started, I guess almost 150 years ago, it started indoors, believe it or not, and then only moved outdoors because of COVID and that sort of thing. But it was also a very beautiful outdoor event. So it's something that touches us from bygone days, but is so important today. Right. The environment is so very, very, very important. It's something I always spoke about as a city councilman, and even running for the state representative.
Right. So for an agronomist who practice out in the countryside, but he started in the city, but you ended up in the city council, very much an indoor job.
Yes, very much so.
How was your service in city council?
Well, I enjoyed it immensely, and I know what I liked the most about it was helping people, resolving a problem, making life better for people. I think it's essential for an elected official to work on those matters.
You were at large, right?
Yes, I represented the entire city.
So you could go anywhere in this city.
That is correct. And I was invited to many places within the city, and I went. I was born and raised in Northeast Philadelphia. When my parents immigrated from Germany, that's where they went, Northeast Philadelphia. But I went all over the city, and I was welcomed everywhere. It was a job that I really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, usually Republicans in Philadelphia are not welcome in too many places, but
well, they welcome me.
They welcome you. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But what was your the main issue that you dealt with as a city councilman?
Well, there are many issues. I couldn't say just one in particular, but one would be
No, it would be either crime
well, crime is
housing or drugs.
better education. Of course, being against drugs and trying to get people to stay away from it and keeping young people from drugs. I think that is essential. But I mean, making the city a better place. You know, helping people sometimes on an individual basis. Somebody has a problem with anything. I mean, it could be water department, working that out, but then also working with community groups on bigger problems.
Right. But anyhow, right now we have a crime problem.
Oh, we do.
Philadelphia has been dealing with that with the drugs,
Absolutely.
drug addiction. That's one of the things that I didn't like to see in a commercial by Dr. Oz. He sort of exploited that issue, going to the neighborhood where you can see the addicts on the sidewalks in really stressful positions, and he used that for his campaign.
I would agree that is absolutely exploitation, because you can have the same drug problems in the suburbs, and instead of being on the street, they're in their houses.
Exactly. So there are many ways to deal with that
There are.
without portraying them the way they're portrayed.
I think elected officials and those that are seeking office should be careful on how they portray the campaign.
So you served between 2016 and 2020, right?
That is correct.
Is that because you had to resign in order to run for office?
No. I didn't have to resign. No.
So you just
Just happened to fall on it.
so. I know there are many issues that Republicans right now oppose. As a Republican in a city that is mostly Democratic, you know, we have had the Democratic Party in the city in 1953. They have ruled
Actually,
the
56.
city.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
that was the election of 52, but they began serving in January.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
53. So they have controlled the city, and it's my pet peeve. What have you done for the city in all the 60 plus years that you have control of the city?
Yes.
And so, but the Republican Party surrendered. They moved to the burbs, and
Well, I don't think they quite surrendered. I think there's a lot of Republicans here. A lot of people that are registered Republicans have moved to the suburbs, but the party has tried to stay viable. We actually won some races, a couple of district attorney races. Our inspector was elected district attorney after that. Ron Castillo also elected the district attorney after that period.
right.
We've come close to the mayor's race, but never winning.
Yeah, what was the close one?
Sam Katz.
Some cats, yeah. It's a shame because that would have been an opportunity for the party to create some.
I think the best thing for this city would be to change administrations and parties every so often. They do it in New York City, and I think it's helped the city overall.
Right.
I mean, you had Rudy Giuliano, you had Mayor Lindsay, all after the big turn from in the urban areas from Republican to Democrat. But having some exceptions to that makes for a better city, makes for better government.
Right. Yeah, well, now that you mentioned Giuliani, we can talk about that issue a little later, but I don't know if you want to do that.
Well, maybe you have to bring it up.
Okay, well, you will do it, Giuliani. I'd be glad to know that so many sort of, I don't know, unorthodox lawyers campaigning for an issue that should not happen. There was no corruption in the vote of 2020, but he went around the country saying that there was. The vote of 2020 was corrupt.
Why? I don't think he was correct in everything.
No, I know. 60 courts around the country, even judges appointed by Trump, did not believe that was the case. So they should just.
I think for the most part, our elections are fair.
I think so.
And once in a while, there are some problems, and some of it may have come out in the last presidential election, but it did not change the outcome.
Right. So, speaking of fair elections, do you think you have a fair chance in
Yes.
this election here?
I do.
Yeah.
I think if people have an open mind, knock on a lot of doors. So far in this campaign for state representative in Northeast Philadelphia, I've knocked on 8,000 doors.
Give me the elevator speech when they open the door for you and you say, hello.
Hello, my name is Taubenberger. I'm a candidate for state representative from our neighborhood because I don't live far from any spot that I'm knocking the door. I mean, it's not like I have far to go. Most places I can walk. Yeah, I can take a car. It's more for convenience, and I'm in the car at those 10 minutes.
Yeah, as opposed to Dr. Rassel had to come from New Jersey.
Well, yeah, when it comes from New Jersey, he has to take a jet. I mean, he has his own jet probably.
Well, he has like 9 houses from Turkey to New Jersey.
Well, he's everywhere.
Yes, almost like God, but don't go there. He's a carpetbagger. Why would somebody like him decide to run in Pennsylvania?
Well, that's the beauty of this country, is that you're free to run, and he's taking advantage of that. Now, it's up to the voters to decide whether he truly is a carpetbagger or he has an understanding of Pennsylvania. I mean, he certainly has some family roots in Pennsylvania. He lives in Pennsylvania now, although he didn't for a long time.
No, he moved for convenience here.
Well, if you're going to run for office, you better reside in the state. Yeah. But it is America, and he can do that rather easily. He's not the only one that's ever done it.
Yeah, but besides that,
Hillary Clinton ran for senator of New York, and she wasn't from New York.
I know, but
I just want to bring up both sides.
She's not bad. I had that in mind too. She's done it. It happens. I mean, especially if you have a name.
Yes, a national name.
A national name, you can almost go anywhere and say, well, okay, I'm here, I want you to vote for me. So, but that shouldn't happen. I mean, we have many Pennsylvanians who are capable of running for Senate.
But they should have ran, and they didn't, and he won. I mean, that's how you have to look at it.
I know, but he is also, he's attacking the lieutenant governor for his health.
That's right.
And I don't think that's fair.
I don't think it's good to bring anyone's health into the political realm.
He had a heart attack. I mean, he's not actively.
Anybody can get sick. Right. You can get sick. I can get sick. We can be near death. We have I think, a pretty good medical system in this country that we probably will survive. But the fact of the matter is, I wouldn't discuss anyone's health. I don't think it's a problem.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that issue, one of the issues we have dealt with recently is COVID.
Yes.
And in some other forms that is apparently coming back now.
Might be coming back. I hope it doesn't.
I hope not, but the hospitals are 75% busy with children.
Yes.
Young, so
well, the last I heard of that from the news last night, they're not even sure exactly what that
they don't know what
it is at this moment.
Right.
Hopefully they will get a handle on that and get those young people and those children out of the hospital.
It's troubled breathing, which is one of the symptoms of COVID, but
yes.
Nobody really knows what it is. Speaking of that, did you support masks, wearing masks?
In the end, yes. I wasn't in favor of it initially, but it was something that is helpful. I actually remember when we had guests from Asia that would come to Philadelphia and sit and watch us in city council and take a tour and so on. Many of them had masks. So this is nothing new, something new to us. I feel that if you feel more comfortable with a mask, wear a mask.
Okay.
And there should be nothing against that. And in some ways, they do help. That's why when you go for surgery, those surgeons are all masked up. And I want them to wear a mask.
How the vaccine? Do you support the vaccine?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always on the side of science. Yes. Once again, an individual decision, but a vaccine is so very important.
That's one thing that I could never understand why Republicans would oppose something.
Well, I think some Republicans. I don't think all Republicans.
Not all Republicans. Yeah, that's one of the things.
Well, this one wasn't.
I would never say all Republicans or all Democrats, because that's one thing that has changed. There are many people who say, I'm a former Republican. I don't believe in the party as it is right now. What do you think of that issue?
Saddened by it. I think, and I was always a big believer in what Senator Arnold Specter had, that we're also a big tent. And there's room for a lot of diversion or different views in the Republican Party. Because think about this, we're a very, very large country. We have two political parties that are, you could call mainstream, that have a chance of winning the presidency of the United States. So in both parties, there is a very diverse belief system. Some are very liberal, some are very conservative. It used to be a little closer in the middle. The middle has taken a hit, unfortunately, and I think America is best governed from the middle. And I think that will come back.
Okay, well, we'll discuss this way to govern America from the middle. When we come back, we're going to take a short break. Taubenberger was running for state representative in Pennsylvania. Is with us today. Regresamos en un momento.
I know kids worry about a lot of things. Getting enough food to eat shouldn't be one of them. Through a nationwide network of food banks, Feeding America serves virtually every community in the United States. See how you can help your community. Visit feedingamerica.org.
Señor oyentes de Usala Radio, estamos aquí de nuevo en este programa La Mesa Redonda. Nos acompaña en el día de hoy Taubenberger, who is running for state representative in Pennsylvania, and we have a few questions for him.
Sure.
You were talking about governing from the middle, which I believe that's like Bill Clinton ran slightly left,
Yes.
Offering the usual democratic ideas of tax and spend, but he governed from the middle.
Yes, I would agree.
Which I think is the whole idea. I think somebody like Ed Rendell was capable of doing that. He had friends on both sides. I think that's the only.
Well, I think also when you look at history, Ronald Reagan campaigned from the right, but I think when it was all said and done, he governed more in the middle.
That's right. Yes. Is he one of your favorite presidents?
Yeah, because I think he had a way of understanding things and explaining, because he was a great orator, on the positions that he wanted to do. He used the television for the greatness of America, in the sense that Americans knew what he was planning to do, and it was a great way for him to communicate.
Yes, he was the great communicator, and he deflated many issues with humor.
Absolutely.
The famous one about not making an issue of Mondale's youth and inexperience. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it was great.
And he loved to tell stories and jokes, and this one, the other one.
Well, some of our greatest presidents.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln was well known for telling stories and jokes and a little bit of humor.
Yeah, John Kennedy.
John Kennedy also.
Press conferences were very humorous in many ways. Yeah. Which is a way to sort of deflect and sort of avoid having to answer the question with more seriousness. But on the other hand, if it helps him, why not?
Correct.
So we know in general what Republicans, conservative people stand for. Talk about family values. What are you for? What things do you favor? What issues do you say, I will listen to have? I know you mentioned education, so I'd like to talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, my wife is a teacher. I actually, in my early days, wanted to be a teacher. I wanted to be a history teacher. It just didn't work out because my advisor at Penn State University said, you know what, Taubenberger, if you become a teacher, you better get a good minor because you're not going to get a job. And then I said, I'm not going to get a job. And my parents were very strict. They were immigrants. They were from Germany. And they didn't want their son to go for 4 years to university and not get a job. So I said, I have to look at something else.
So das ist nicht gut.
Das ist nicht gut.
So, yeah, so what issues like education, which is, we know during the Kennedy administration, there was a drive to provide pre-K education.
Yes.
You know, so, what other issues do you favor in terms of education?
Well, I think that was a funding source, and had he come up, Mayor Kenney, with a better funding source than the soda tax, I would have been in favor of it. but I was against the soda tax because it took it really just pinpointed one industry that was at the time, and many companies now have moved out that actually were in Philadelphia that made soda. And if you're going to tax it that heavily, they're going to go elsewhere, and rightfully so. Absolutely, any program needs funding, but how you get that funding is the dilemma, and making it fair and across the board. There are other ways to get the funding for that, for additional education.
Well, the idea was that you were doing two things at once: funding schools, funding education for pre-K, and also helping with our health, because there's so much sugar in
that is correct, but also an industry that is highly developed in Philadelphia. So less soda consumption in Philadelphia, and there's other things too. I mean, you have different seltzers and flavored seltzers and things that become more sophisticated. I don't know why it was just pinpointed there. I mean, I would have made it more broad appeal, a more broad tax. That would have been my opinion to do that.
Are you in favor of what Biden has proposed in terms of the cancelling the debt, that many students paid to go through school?
I really am not, because I think there's a certain responsibility, and you take it more seriously when you personally have to pay for it. So just to cancel the debt on students, maybe reduce it slightly to see if it helps the economy. I'm not familiar with that issue in the sense that it is a federal issue, but the fact is that just to cancel it completely, I think would be not fair to those people that paid. And what are we going to do? Refund all the money for people like myself who went to university?
Right.
I mean, a gradual reduction, understood. Just to cancel the debt. I mean, I had student debt too, and also keep in mind that student debt had very, very low interest.
Right.
I mean, it's not like these people are, looking to where their next meal is coming from.
There are many people resentful of the fact that they paid so much money to that debt.
Absolutely.
And now all of a sudden it's cancelled after they have paid already.
Yeah.
So, do the banks benefit from that?
No,
Or do they suffer?
I think they don't do business as much, although they could probably make an argument because the interest rate was always subsidized,
Right.
that they probably, if people have less student debt, it might even be a relief to them in the sense that they don't have to deal with it.
I don't know, the banks always make money like that.
Well, the banks are set up that they'll always make money as long as the capitalism exists. Even when it doesn't exist, I think even in communist countries there are banks and will always do well.
Like a friend of mine used to say, first of all, pay the lawyers, and so they're the ones who always make money no matter what you do.
That's correct.
Speaking of lawyers, right now Washington is full of them.
Always have.
Because everybody seems to be needing a defense lawyer,
Really, yes.
especially all the people who served in the last administration. So on day one, when you arrive in Harrisburg,
Yes.
what are you going to? What is your main task? Your main
Well,
objective?
a couple things. I'd like to see state taxes reduced where we can. The second thing is I want to be more accessible to the public. I want to be at more community meetings. I will start a series of meetings in my constituency that they could, anyone that will want to talk to me could. I give out my cell number randomly. I give it out here, 215-806-0238, 215-806-0238, if anyone wants to call me, or they want to volunteer for my campaign at this point. But my position is accessibility. I want to be known as the political leader when I was in city council that you could call upon me at any time.
Well, that's good, especially when you were at large, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Anybody.
we have a big city, and I went in this neighborhood, that neighborhood.
Yeah. So again, what other objectives would you have as?
I think increased funding for education, better education, even better. I mean, maybe we can develop programs where you can get even some college credit. I think when you look at our education system and that of other countries, and particularly in Europe, but doesn't have to be in Europe. There's certainly countries in South America that have better education system than we do. Let's model something after them, and particularly with higher education, with university.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that the gap in this country is from grade school, primary school. There's a gap that jumps to college. So we have great colleges or universities,
Right.
especially the Ivy League and,
Oh, yeah.
and others. And there is a gap in between where we have graduated athletes by the hundreds who come out and they cannot read well, they cannot
That's not good.
speak well, and so that has to be remedied. I mean, you cannot just keep producing like hot dogs, people coming out of college with no knowledge.
Correct. I mean, just because they're good at a particular sport, it doesn't give them a complete blank check. I mean, they also have to perform and not perform on the sports field, perform academically.
Yeah, so will you be in favor of a very strict curriculum that has
Absolutely.
some basic
Yes.
requirements for
Yes.
anybody to get a diploma?
Yes.
Yeah.
And even on a high school basis.
Yeah.
So people are just passed through. I mean, there are some people that are critics, and they might be correct, that we in big cities and in other places in the United States just pass people through, and they're really not learning anything.
Yes. Well, so that's one of the problems that we have, that our education at certain levels is lacking.
Oh, absolutely. For a major nation that we are, for a developed nation that we are, the fact of the matter is our education is not on par with the rest of the world. How's that?
Right. So, backtracking a little bit, one of the main reasons some of these kids arrive into high school with not enough tools for learning and succeeding is the family environment. So many of our youth are raised in places where there is risk to their lives every day.
It is difficult.
Drug addiction, alcohol, you name it. So how do we remedy that aspect, that the family has to be strengthened? And I think we are putting money into supporting that part of a child's raising.
Yes, I would agree, and I'm going to be very blunt about it. I don't have a simple answer for that, because there is no simple. It's very complicated. And the fact is, though, the one thing I have always spoken, that comes from my time with the Chamber of Commerce, I'm in favor of developing as many jobs as we can. Jobs, and more jobs. Because when people have an opportunity to go to work, they're entirely different. If they have nothing to do and they're just sitting around and wasting away, and okay, maybe they get their government check, they're still wasting away, and idle time is not good. So I am for creating and supporting as many jobs as possible.
Right. So yeah, not only minorities are frustrated, blacks and Hispanics. I think one of the reasons somebody like Sarah Palin and Marjorie Taylor Greene have risen to power is because there's a lot of frustration around the country. This radical right is unhappy with the way our country is moving, and that's given power to people like that who are extreme right.
And that's not good either. The extreme, I'm not a proponent of the extreme anything. I'm for the middle ground, the middle position. I think, in fact, it was U.S. Senator Arnold Specter, who I thought was a very good senator. He had flaws, he made mistakes, sure, but he's human. On the other hand, had a great idea in the sense that the country is best governed from the middle. Extremism is really out of place in America. I mean, Barry Goldwater said extremism in the case of democracy is no vice. And maybe that's right when it comes to democracy, because democracy kind of levels things out anyway on its own. So he may have been correct in saying that, but on the other hand, it's the middle. The middle point of view in a political realm is always the better view all around. and the ability, the one thing that made this country a great country is the ability for our government to compromise, to discuss things and come up with the best plan.
Yeah, speaking of democracy, one of the issues that are floating around is that democracy is in danger in this country, in view of what happened on January 6th, in view of what many Republicans have done around the country, canceling the vote of minorities, making it very, very difficult to vote in many states like Georgia. You could not stand in line and receive water because that was...
Well, that's ridiculous.
So that kind of stuff, that doesn't contribute to a healthy democracy. So we are a little bit at risk right now from a party that doesn't believe in democracy.
Well, I don't think it's the entire party. And keep this in mind. This thing goes back and forth. There were one time Southern Democrats that you would look at today and say, well, these people weren't for democracy at all. They wouldn't let African Americans vote. They wouldn't let anybody. They wanted to curtail that vote. So it's really nothing new. To constantly examine these things is a good thing. Democracy must look in the mirror as often as possible.
Right. So you have.
I mean, when you and I go outside, we look in the mirror to make sure we have a cleanly shaven face, or we were kept well. Looking at a democracy constantly is a good thing.
Yes. Who said you have a democracy? You have a republic. You can keep it.
I think it was Benjamin Franklin.
So
they asked him what kind of government we will have.
So, but I mean, do you support restrictions to the way people have been voting, like by mail or like in Georgia, where they're not allowing people to vote in certain parts of town, unless you are?
I mean, I want openness all around. Now, let me also say this, with open-ended absentee ballots, I mean, where you can vote like at any time, you need rules and regulations for that. And if you're going to steal the vote, if the vote is going to be stolen, it's going to be done with absentee ballots.
But the vote has never been stolen like that, not on
I agree.
on a level that would change
I agree. I agree.
So
I agree.
that was a made-up story by the Trump people after he lost, and so that continues because there are people like we just named some of them that are going around the country.
Well,
saying,
I wouldn't say that. Now, but let me say this. The rules were changed because of an illness. They were changed because of COVID. Well, COVID is, I wouldn't say it's completely eradicated, but it's a lot better than it was. And the fact of the matter is that with an election, you still need some rules and regulations. I mean, you can't just walk off from somewhere. You can't go from Pennsylvania to New Jersey and just walk in there polling booth and say, I'm entitled to vote here. You're not. You have to prove that you're a resident of New Jersey.
Yeah, but you know who can do that? Dr. Oz.
Well, he's a special guy, created by America with his TV empire. So,
are you in favor of a voter ID, some kind of identification?
I think it has to be done correct. I believe this. I think we have enough IDs on who we are. I mean, we have driver's license, we have Medicare cards, Social Security card. So, I mean, I don't know if we need an additional ID, but it wouldn't be wrong to ask for an ID when you actually vote. And if you don't have it, well, I think almost everyone carries it, but maybe they don't, but they should. I think you should have the ability to get that, or swear that you are who you say you are.
Right.
I mean, because you actually, on the election board, a lot of people don't realize what all these people are that sit behind the table. Well, you do have a judge of elections there. And the judge of election, in my eyes, is sort of like a referee of the polling place. And if everybody knows that this is John Smith, but John Smith forgot his license, he forgot his ID, but he really is John Smith, and this person would know from the neighborhood, then John Smith can vote.
Okay, but there's the problem. Republicans have endeavored to get rid of people who were doing that job by threats. They threats.
Some, I would say.
Well,
I would differ with that.
not Democrats haven't done it. Republicans haven't.
Democrats used to do it.
People.
Well, let's not erase all history.
We're talking about this election. We're talking about now.
Okay, but still.
And of course, the Democrats did a lot of terrible things in the past. I'm not defending anything.
Well, they defended slavery.
I'm saying right now, I know the party of Abraham Lincoln, though, has changed.
Well, but still, that's where the roots are of the Republican Party.
I understand, but I don't think that Lincoln will recognize the party right now.
I would hope he could.
Well,
I would hope.
There's like no way that this party, as it is right now, and I'm sorry, but you are a Republican, and
They're very proud of it.
Not depicting you or casting you in the same group as Marjorie Taylor Greene and other people, but the party, where are the leaders of the party saying this is wrong? Stop the nonsense. The election was not stolen. Biden's a legitimate president. Where is Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy? Where are all the top?
Well, first of all, it was the Vice President of the United States certified the election. He said Biden has the votes. He won.
Yeah, and
He's a
then,
Republican.
and then the people tried to hang in the Capitol.
Well, some did.
Right.
Some people lost their temper. It was wrong. He was never in danger. I mean, the end of
Are you kidding me?
I don't think he was ever in danger.
Oh,
I think people said he should be hung, and that was ridiculous too. But I don't think he was ever in personal danger. That's
That's
my opinion.
You should talk to the Secret Service because they say they have to go hide him in an unknown.
Well, they did because, well, wait a minute, whoa. The Secret Service is very quick on reacting to anything like that. If there's any threat against an American elected official, they're there to protect them and will take they will take extreme measures to protect them.
Do you believe that people who came into the Capitol were just peaceful people?
No, I think there were some rioters there. I think some were peaceful in the sense that all of a sudden, hey, this all opened up. I think it was a bad day for America all around. I really do. I really believe it was a bad day for America from the top to the bottom. I mean, some police should have been there and they weren't there. Some people just wandered in. Yes, and there were troublemakers, absolutely, and they should be arrested and they should stay in prison for the duration of their sentence.
Do you agree with what the January 6th committee in Congress is doing right now?
I think to investigate it, to look at it very closely, is important for this democracy. Absolutely.
Yeah, we need a cleansing job.
Well, and I also said we should be looking in the mirror, and that's part of looking in the mirror.
And sometimes we may not like what we see in the mirror.
I know, but then we have to change it.
Okay, so for our part of the country, this region, how do we create more jobs in Pennsylvania? Because a lot of companies are afraid to come here in Philadelphia because of the taxes. The environment is not conducive for many companies to come here. How do we attract more business?
Well, we should make it conducive. I think that's the first thing. We should make it conducive for
How?
all. Well, probably through good law enforcement, where they're not afraid, that sort of thing. And I think we should always look at new ideas. And also taxation. Sometimes our taxes are too high. Take a closer look. We need to tighten the belt.
Business tax, yeah.
Yeah, really. I mean, and maybe with new businesses, there's a tax moratorium for the first 3-4 years.
Right. Well, they have that 10-year tax abatement, whatever.
Well, but that's on if you purchase a property. Yes.
Yeah.
No. If you build a new property.
Yeah. Did that come to an end? I mean, that's still...
No, it's still in existence, but it's being phased out, and it should always be looked at as well. I think it gave a great deal of a business boom. And keep in mind, when you build a house, those workers, they're paying taxes. I mean, it's not like all taxes are forgiven. The taxes that is being forgiven is the property tax for a certain amount of time.
So you served in the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes, Northeast Philadelphia.
Northeast Philadelphia. So was there a discussion there of how do we create more jobs? How do we attract more companies?
And in fact, I was on the Tax Reform Commission appointed by Mayor Rendell. And that was a very helpful thing to learn. And it has to be balanced. You can't just eliminate all taxes. The government needs to make money as well. But on the other hand, I think you really got to look at them and look at the taxes as they exist. Because sometimes there's taxes on that should have been removed years ago, or should have been phased out years ago. Actually, it wouldn't hurt the government, and this is one of the things I would do in Harrisburg, is review the taxes. Have a regular tax review committee. Is it necessary? What does it really bring in? Is it stifling jobs? Are certain elements of the country or the state, in this case the state, being hurt by it? Is it stifling our growth?
Right. I would say it probably is. Now, circle back, because then here we are. We don't have a well-trained labor force, and that is one of the problems we have right now. That many companies cannot find people to fill the positions they have, because people who get degrees, not like yours in agronomy, people who get degrees in history and other things, as opposed to, we need more plumbers, more electricians, more roofers, more carpenters. That's what we need right now, but the unions have made it very difficult for minorities to join.
Well, I would hope that that's not the case, and if that's the case, then we want to do something about it. Everyone should have equal access to jobs. And for a union, which I would find, and it does exist, where it does really exist, that is a sad day, and they're not doing the things for their members or future members. I mean, if they're a union shop, then all the new employees have to join the union. If it's most shops are closed shops where you cannot, you're either in the union or out. There are some other shops where you can not be in the union but still work in the same place, but they're rarer. The fact of the matter is they're not helping their future members.
Right. It was a long time that the Democrats were the main supporters of unions, and I don't know how.
Well, that's actually the first unions came during the administration of Teddy Roosevelt. Yes, that's a long time ago, but the fact is there were very pro-Republican union representatives. Mm-hmm. And actually, if you look at me, I am a pro-union Republican. I've always been very proud. I'm a member of the Local 830, which is the Teamsters, which deal with soda and beer. That was my calling. I was a beer salesman, and the fact of the matter is we had to join the union, and I did. I was proud of it.
But I was on the board of Congreso de Latinos Unidos in Philly, and one of the problems we always encountered was the unions blocked minorities from joining. At some point, we tried. They offered. They paid lip service to the fact that they were going to train people, and it never happened.
What's sad?
So, and it is sad. And the thing, they would be better off now if they had integrated more minorities.
I agree. I couldn't agree more.
And because they are suffering all over the country. One of the reasons they have shrunk in size, many unions, and power, is because they would not allow minorities.
Well, that was their big mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, because unions should look like America, and that is with a large degree of minorities.
Yeah, but you and I know that has not been the case here in Philly for a very long time.
Well, we want to try to change it.
And one of the big guys to jail, which he should be there for a while. Now,
actually,
we're going to take another brief pause here en Usala Radio. Están escuchando la mesa redonda en compañía de Taubenberger. Les habla Fernando Mendez. Regresamos en un minuto.
Encuentra el bosque más cercano en descubreelbosque.org. El bosque, más cerca de lo que crees.
Señores oyentes de Usala Media, estamos aquí de nuevo con su programa La Mesa Redonda en compañía de Taubenberger, who is running for state representative. And we are in a good conversation about so many issues, from education to what to do about taxes and so on. So we have a few more questions to close the show. Somehow, all of a sudden, Philadelphia has become again sports city.
Oh, wow.
We have Eagles. We even have the soccer team, the Union.
Yeah, Union is doing very well.
So And not to say about the Phillies. So here we
Phillies
are.
are on the cusp of greatness.
So great promise. I don't know how that happened, but here we are.
Well, I mean, it takes time to develop winning sports teams, and everything has come together at the right time for Philadelphia.
Yes.
And Philadelphia has always been a sports city. However, the teams didn't always reflect the passion that the fans had.
Yeah, well, the Bluebirds exist for a good reason. They booed Santa Claus. That's one of my favorite things. They booed Santa Claus. But it's a good time to be in Philadelphia.
Absolutely.
It gives a sense of pride.
Yes.
So that in addition to the city, that finally paving some of the streets in Center City, which were in a really bad state during most of COVID. I don't know if that was the reason, but there was the streets in downtown in Center City were really in horrible condition.
Well, absolutely there were. Nobody wanted to go anywhere or couldn't go anywhere. In fact, I don't think Center City has really recovered to the degree that it was prior to COVID.
Not since Rendell. I mean, we were so proud at that point with Rendell, probably to the detriment of other parts of the city. But he loved Center City.
Well, he did. He loved the city itself, but he really loved Center City, and he knew what potential it had.
Yes, because we need that in order to attract tourists. Because we have great tourist attractions here.
Absolutely. I mean, we have the shrines that made America, Independence Hall.
Right.
And we even had the court building where the first Supreme Court sat. I mean, we have a lot of historic things here. I mean, and people want to see it and feel it and get an understanding of it. And we have a great park system. Right. We have the largest urban park in the world, right here in Philadelphia. A lot of people don't realize how it started, but it was really to safeguard our water supply. That's why most of the Schuylkill is bordered by Fairmount Park. It was so that river would run clean, that there would not be industry there, that we'd be able to get a drink out of the river if we wanted to.
Right. Well, I think it's good now, and there's that walk all around.
Oh yeah, great, which is great for physical fitness.
Yes.
Nothing better than taking a walk. That's one of the great things that Europeans do.
Right.
I mean, my relatives in Germany many of them are part of sports clubs and walking clubs. I mean, in Europe, it's not just a soccer club, which is equivalent to football, which is a big deal, but they also have a swim club. They also have hiking clubs, a full array of things. Which in this country we have some of that, but not much of it, and not enough of it.
Right. Now that you mentioned Germany, that's one of those countries that, like Japan, that has done a great job, especially Germany, training people for careers like
absolutely,
electrician,
absolutely,
all that.
The German apprentice program is modeled by many countries and many places.
So that we should do more of that.
Absolutely.
And if you win this election, if you go to Harrisburg, I would expect you to promote this.
Absolutely.
Education.
Education will be very, very, in fact, I'll ask to be on the education committee. And making things better for people, I think, is the main responsibility of elected officials.
So, realistically, how do you see this election coming up?
For me, personally?
Yes.
I think very good. I've knocked on 8,000 doors. I'm getting a good response. The area that I live in has elected other folks other than just Democrats. I mean, Republicans actually held that seat for many, many years. And I think it's going to be competitive, very competitive. And I look forward to serving. And I would look forward to coming here.
Yeah, and you are welcome. Anytime you want to come, this is a smart discussion, so many ideas.
The exchange of ideas are important.
So, absolutely, you're very welcome, and
Thank you.
Please come back.
I will, absolutely.
So, señores oyentes de Usala Media, hemos llegado al final de esta edición de La Mesa Redonda. Muchas gracias por su sintonía en el día de hoy. Se despide Fernando Mendez, en compañía de Dani Ramos y Phil. Y hasta la próxima.
Greetings from the city of brotherly love. I am Fernando Mendez, host of the Roundtable, we invite you to listen to our discussion of the themes of the day when we bring you regional, national, and international news.